So thanks, hello. Thanks to everybody for joining this first workshop session. I don't know if it's like a workshop session. Yeah, please, executive.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, all good.
So yeah, it's Loaf is going to, I guess, take you on a bit of a tour through the new repo and documentation. So to give you a kind of an idea of what's in there and how to deploy a module, and then I think also discuss any potential ideas of things that people could build, and then maybe a bit of a Q&A at the end. But Loaf, how does that sound to you? It's very early in the morning for you.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay, so I guess everyone here is probably aware of the hackathon starting in like 20 hours time. I'm running till the 9th of October. If you've not registered yet, register on matchboxdao.com. And there's numerous tasks and numerous challenges and numerous bounties available. But this session is to talk about building in the Realms gaming ecosystem. So we're building out on-chain games, and we're building out bridging layer 2. And so you can come along and work with those contracts and add something to that world that interacts with those modules or stands alone. And potentially you could also just use the resources and the tokens inside the Realms gaming universe, so the Lord's token, the resources that are generated by the Realms, and create something again that sits in that same ecosystem but doesn't necessarily have to sit directly on top of our existing contracts. But I will pass over to Loaf now to run you through what he's got prepared.
GM. So I thought Secretive said it well. What we're building here is not just Eternum, which is our first game. We're really trying to create this on-chain ecosystem that has native interoperability with each other. And so, to begin that, we have designed this first game called Eternum, which is a resource management game. And so the hackathon, if you're participating in it, we're really interested in to see, you can build an extension to the game that we've built, which is still like in early alpha, or you can build an ancillary, ephemeral type game using some of the assets like the resources of the lords, or even interacting with a module. Or you could build a trading application within the ecosystem. Really, it's just like anything that's within the ecosystem is what we're looking for. And a lot more people just joined. And like from a judging point of view, like me personally, I'm really interested just to see interesting contracts and proof of concepts, not so much fully fledged high fidelity type games, because it's the time will be best spent in the hackathon, conceptualizing and kind of proof of concept with contracts, rather than spending a lot of time creating some graphics. I thought so today I'm going to I'm just going to show you a couple things, and I'm going to go through the repository. Just going to share my screen. We'll just do questions at the end. So I'm just going to show you. So this is our developer documentation, and just to note as well, everything here is open source. So if you do find a typo, just feel free to do a PR. We're open source from the beginning. That comes with its challenges, as in some things are incomplete. But we believe that's how we are going to build the richest ecosystem. So that's what we do. So this is our developer docs, xcode development.bibliotheca.dao, XYZ. We explain some documentation here, some guides. I definitely recommend if you're like totally new to this world, then read our master scroll, which is our white paper, and it goes deep into like, you know, the whole philosophy around eternal games and as well as our, um, you know, version one game mechanics and economics and other theory around that. So definitely that's the place to start. And then dive into these docs. There's a lot to read, but you know. So if you're totally new to this, go here and follow these steps to get up and running. So most people here probably have VS Code, so and Docker. So and then clone the repo, and once you've cloned it, it will open a script, and it will show you the first steps in order to get started. Which I'm not going to run through absolutely a little bit of this, but and if you don't want to do this, you can do a manual installation. If you got like a different machine and you know like running dev containers and whatnot. And some stuff here. So, and then the rest of these docs are, we go into Cairo standards, which these are what we follow in the repo. And we go into some bit mapping, some other theory. I'm not going to go into these bits today. Milan's actually going to do a more technical kind of, or more technical, but more like Cairo theory based tutorial in early next week. Where he goes through all the bits and pieces and some Cairo black magic, but really like a lot of this like bit mapping and optimization stuff. Like you don't have to do this when you're first designing, your contracts. This is really like you get your you get your contracts right, and then you start working on these optimizations. The worst thing you can do is like do heavy pre-optimization. It just kills you because you end up just rewriting everything. So, and then we talk about some testing structures, which is what I'm going to go through in a minute. And then Eternum, some overall structures, which maybe I'll just go through this in the repo. Modules, how to create a module. These are just like, come back through this after this tutorial if you need some more documentation. And the exchange and some CLI Hello World stuff. But I'm going to swap to the okay. So after you pull, clone the repo, this is what you'll get. So we're using a dev container, which is just a Docker container, and it's got all the setup already included within it, so you don't need to set up your environment or anything. It's already got the pathing, and it's got this nice setup script. So I'm just going to rerun this, see what happens. So when you open the container for the first time, you will be exposed to... Oh, is my screen still sharing? That didn't kill it, did it?
Yes, it is.
It's still going? Okay, cool.
Yeah, still going.
Yeah, you just never know. Yeah, so when you first open the container, you'll get exposed to this little script, which we've set up, and it will automatically create you an account and do any other setups. So this is just like to bootstrap you into the, into the repo and get you going fast. There might be some bugs because it's still a work in progress, but for right now it is working. So if you totally, if it's the first time you do it, then you can, type 2, and it will set up an account and then compile all the contracts for you. But I've already done that. That takes about 5 minutes, so we're not going to do that right now. So I'm just going to exit that. So that's the dev container, and that's why we use it. Now, this is the fun part of the repo, which is the contracts. So we have in here all of our contracts that we use. in game, as well as some kind of work in progress ones like the NFT marketplace. This is still kind of like a work in progress, where it's in the backlog, so it's a little broken right now. But D Siege is a mini game that we designed about 6 months ago. We haven't deployed it into production because Cairo kept changing it back then, and we decided to shift our attention to the core game. But we learned a lot from building this mini game, as well as some processes. So you can have a look through that. But it shares the same structure as the core game. Next thing we have is our exchange contract, this is our AMM. And so what this does is it is a ERC20 to 1155 AMM. And so we have our native currency, which is called Lords, and then we have our resources within the game, which are 1155 tokens. Now, this AMM allows you to trade any number of 1155s with a ERC20, which is our Lords. So all the functions in here go over that. So it can add liquidity and remove liquidity and stuff, but you can dive into that if that's what you're interested in. And then loot. So this is the we will be releasing some kind of more theory around the reasoning for a lot of the structure in the loot and adventure contracts, because it goes quite deep. Is Code Monkey on the call? And Loot Hero? I don't know. Okay. Well, those two guys were kind of spearheading this part of the contracts. But what we've tried to do with the loot and adventure is just quickly is Stockman allows very cheap computation. So we really tried to create this like base physics layer of the loot items. And so what we mean by that is we've created like, imagine think of an item like a pendant, for example. Now a pendant can be made of Now a pendant has like a material, right? So we've given each item its own material, and we've given them each material its own weight, and from these kind of like base level, and then the weight we derive from actual mineral weight, as in like gold or stone, and from these like base physics. We bubble up the statistics into like a final stat, and by doing that, we create this like real low level, real low level layer of the items, and it allows people to build like on top of that lower level that's like unopinionated, and so that's what we tried to do with the loot items. And so dive into the structure and these constants files, because there's a lot of stuff in here. And so that's the loot items, and the adventurer is our on-chain character that we're designing. And what an adventurer is it's a soul-bound NFT, and it has fully on-chain statistics. So I'll just get to. So this is an adventurer's struct, and so you can see here it has its own like statistics, luck. You can store items. It can be equipped bags. It has its own race, home realm, name, birth date, and evolving stats like health, XP, level, order. And so the reason why we've done this is that this will lay the groundwork for a character standard, and it will allow adventurers to be quests and adventures to be made with this same interface. And so if you're looking to build something in this with the adventurers or loot, you can just take this interface and build an experience with it easily. So there's health, XP, level, and order. So you can build an experience that adjusts the XP of an adventurer, and then it's up to the adventurer to opt in to that adventure. And so I mean, a lot of the other the way this folder structured is we've got all the constant files in here, which contains all the statistics and the physics. And then in here we have the actual contract. This is like still quite early. These contracts, they are deployed, but they're kind of in a very early state. So if you are going to go down this path, really just think, like, how can I use the loot items, or how can I use the adventurer? But you don't have to like deeply integrate with these two contracts. Like for the hackathon, you could come up with another contract that just swaps loot items or creates like a PvP between the two adventurers using the interface. And the NFT marketplace, I just went over that. And then here's a settling game, which is a tournament, which is this is the core game that we're building right now. And within this folder, we've got our interfaces, and so and we've got our modules. And so this game all revolves around like this module controller structure. And what a module controller is that it acts like a switchboard, because when you're when you need a lot of contracts to interact with one another, you need like an efficient way to manage write access and maintainability. And so what this structure does is that it stores all the game contracts within this module controller, and then every module, which is defined by specific sets of logic, talks with the module controller, and it fetches the address of another module it wants to write to. And so everything goes through the module controller, and it creates a really easy way to maintain like consistent state and consistent permissions across the whole game. And so if we want to include a new module in the game, we can just add an address for the module controller with an ID, and then the game expands. And so it's easy to upgrade, and it's easy to maintain. And so that's the reason why we do the module controller. And so within here, we've got all our modules. And so buildings, this controls our all logic around our decay mechanisms and upgrading buildings, and buying buildings, and whatnot. Our calculator, which is like it contains like generalized calculated functions for the entire game. And so anything in here that's like like population wise or food that's used in more than like one module will end up here, just to keep it in like this consistent calculator contract. Combat, you'll notice here when you go through this that we've got like two combat contracts. And so we've gone through quite a few iterations with our combat logic, just because PvP on chain is quite a interesting thing, and it's quite new. So we've been trying to find the most metagame style algorithms. And so right now we've got two in here. This is the old one, so we're not using this one. But if you're curious about like heavy optimization, then this is the contract to look through, because Milan's done some pretty crazy stuff in here. And this is the combat module that we're using right now, which, yeah. I can't go through every single one of these, otherwise we'll be here all day. So, Crips is still a work in progress. We're actually going to do a call with Inai. Is he on the call? No, he's not on the call. Who has written the graph module. Sorry, not the graph module, a graph repo written in Cairo. And we're going to explain how we're approaching the generated crypts in that call, which will be, I think its plan is Friday for that. Food. This is how we interact with all the food, all the food logic within this module. Goblin towns is how people earn lords in this world. It's still early and still being worked on. Relics, resources, settling, and travel. So yeah, as I said just before, like I highly recommend diving into the Master Scroll. I can't go through absolutely everything. The game's quite deep, and I'll be here all day if I try to go line by line with all these contracts. So I thought the best time spent right now would be me just explaining like how you would add a module, or how kind of I write Cairo at like a fast pace, because I definitely chewed a lot of glass getting started, like probably everybody did. But I think I've landed on a pretty fast way to develop logic and contracts, especially in a game environment where like if you really want to like test all these contracts in like one go, you have to deploy them all, which takes forever. So the way we design things now is in these little isolated unit tests and stateless libraries. And by doing this, you can rapidly prototype logic and what you need to do. So hang on a second. All right, so I'm assuming everyone's done like Cairo 101, because you should probably do that. We can't go over all the basics here. There are some links in the developer docs on the first page with some resources around that. So in the modules folder, I've got this example folder. So best thing to do is just like to copy this, paste, and just rename. Now within this module, we've got 4 files. So we've got our core file, which will be the actual contract that will be deployed. And we've just got the 2 proxy functions here, as well as just a test function. And then we've got an interface, which will just be the interface of this this function. We've got a library, which will be the stateless functions, and a constants file if there are any like unique constants to this module that we need to include. So the way to get started is, it's all about writing these stateless libraries, and you can see here like so this is our resources library, and so by stateless I mean like these are just little composable functions that don't contain any state, and you can test them easily. And so So I like to copy paste a lot because I don't mix things out. So I'm just going to write a little function here that does something about just does it. I need it. So yeah, so this is like a little namespace function, test function, and so what we do now is, so we'll go down to tests, protostar, settling game, and we will just create a folder, test, file, test. Um, just this is. And so what I've done here is I've just created a little file. This is a protostar file, which we can test. And then what I'm going to do is split screen this. This is how I like to work. I just got my test file up and my library file. I find it works quite well. And now we can just do, so we want to import, just want to import this, library into the protostar test. And so you just do this by, yes. So I've just done contracts, settling game modules test, library test. Now, this is just going to return 10, obviously. And you can select these functions by doing this. So you just do dot selectors like in JavaScript, which is, and it's going to take in one value. It's going to return one value. So it's actually not doing the value, just this. And the way that I like to do this stuff, you'll find when you write Cairo, it's just about especially in a game environment where you need to test a lot of logic and you know, you want to be able to test quickly. And so doing this mechanism of, stateless functions and just testing the functions in this structure, you can really iterate fast. So I'm just going to create a, test value, 1,000. That semicolon always gets me. It's a new thing. For some reason, compiler, you have to do that. I don't know why. If anybody knows, please tell me now. But just doesn't like it when you don't do that. So yeah, so this little test function should run. So what I do now is start test. certain, but this should equal 10. Yeah, so that's how I like to write little library functions. And you can see how quickly that test was, took half a second. And you can imagine if you're writing a module, you don't want to have to deploy contracts when you test things, which is what we were doing, which is kind of what you have to do with PyTest. Well, you can't have to do it. And the tests take like 5 minutes. So, the difference between 5-minute test or like 2-second test is crazy. So, like once you've, got your logic like this, and you've got your library set up like this, and you've got your unit tests running, and you're testing your logic, then you move on to actually writing the contract itself, which you do in the core. And so in the core, you would then import the actual module. This. And so we've got here, we just like how we did in the test structure, but now we're importing it directly into the actual contract. Well, like if you do your unit tests and your libraries correctly, then most of your testing in your contracts will be quite easy because all your unit tests are working. So you can really just hack away quickly and iterate quickly with these libraries. And then when you're ready and you have all the logic, then you move to the contracts and you deploy these and test these. I can't actually deploy things right now because Nile's broken. We're kind of in the alpha stage of StarkNet and things keep breaking. I am going to try and get a fix up, like a temporary fix today, just using one of Nile's branches that is fixed. But yeah, I can't deploy things right now. But that doesn't matter because you can just, you don't need to deploy things when you're writing a module. That's like the final stage of testing things. So yeah, that's how I think. This is how I write my modules. I think it's a pretty quick way to do things. But yeah, I'm open to suggestions if people think this isn't the best way. But yeah, that's really what I just go through a couple of things. But yeah, we really touched on everything in this repo. Like there's a lot in here. Like you don't need to grok it all straight away. Like my advice would be, try to grasp like what we're trying to do with the Eternal game, and maybe a couple of the modules, and build your idea off them, or build it in total isolation like this in its own little module. The module doesn't necessarily have to be totally included in the core game. Like it can be something that's not actually like connected into the module controller, but it can still assist the players in some way. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to get out. Really explain, the module controller, and write a library. So that is so yeah. Anybody got any questions about this?
Maybe talk about some ideas of like things that you think people could build.
Yes. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that can be built. We've built this travel module And so everything on the atlas and in this world state has a coordinates, like XY coordinate. And so you have to travel from one realm to another in order to, initiate combat. And so I really want to see like some kind of trading system using these coordinates. I know there might be a couple people working on something similar like this, but like the way the realms work is that they have their own set of resources. So they might have wood, stone, and coal, and another one might have like dragonhide and mithril, or actually it's probably a bad example. Maybe one has mithril and one has dragonhide, and right now the only way to trade them is through the AMM. But I think what would be cool would be being able to set up trade routes between two realms. And so let's say you have excess mithril and you want to trade it for dragonhide, and someone has excess dragonhide. You could set up a trade route for that lasts for 2 weeks. And once that's set up, then you effectively just like swap maybe 50% of your dragonhide for 50% of raw. And it just accrues like any other resource on your realm. And so, but you get 50% less, and you get 50% of the other resource. So it ends up being like almost like a mini futures market, because you don't have to trade on the exchange for that resource. That's one thing. A world boss module would be very cool. Perhaps something that realm armies need to tackle together. So maybe a world boss that is like a kraken or something that exists in the ocean that you need to travel to with your army, and then the army will any army that participates in like taking it down will receive some of the treasure. A PvP contract between the adventurers that exist on a arena that can be built on a realm, where the people that build the arena get rewarded when people fight within that arena. I do really want to see like a pseudo swap style AMM for the loot items, because I see AMMs as almost like NPCs in this world. They are NPCs. They always buy from you, and they always sell to you. And so in the game environment, they make a lot of sense. So I want to see more AMM utilization. You could build some other type of like dungeon crawler that's not related to the crypts. Yeah. I think we got a big list somewhere, don't we, Secretive?
Yeah, I posted it in the chat that goes with this, and I'll also just retweet it now. So it's the top of our feed. So yeah, he's defined like 50 ideas of things to build.
Yeah, great. But yeah, like if you've got any like ideas you want to bounce off me, just ping me directly. I've had a bit of a but yeah, that the best way to get started is just to conceptualize something. Doesn't matter how crazy it is. That's like we're in this really early stage of these type of games. We're still figuring out this. Like there's barely any on-chain games that exist right now. So nothing's too crazy. And so just go nuts. Anybody got any other questions about the repo or contracts or Cairo or games or anything?
And you can type them in the side chat if you prefer, rather than unmuting.
No takers. Casey, how are you? How's been the path developing your music system? Any wisdom?
Gosh, I think talking about it with other people helps a great deal. And whether it's commiserating or getting tips about how to manage things, you're not alone. And even if you can find answers out there from people, this community is really, really encouraging and supportive. And for someone like me, I think it has taken a bit longer time, and but with I think a bit of just setting aside a bit of time and not being afraid to ask questions, you can find out a lot of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because people have within the last year run into asked the same questions and run into the same problems. And so people know where you're coming from.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. Exactly.
There's some great resources. That guy Darlington has got some great sort of focused walkthroughs of specific concepts that you want to know when you're writing contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's an evolving space, so now's the best time to learn it. Like there's a lot to build. I'll just maybe I'll just actually show one thing. I'm just going to show the current state of the I just hope this doesn't crash the stream. It might. I don't know, we'll see. I'm just going to stream the Atlas, and I'll show some of the cool things that I think people should really leverage. So this is this is the current build of the game. We've been iterating on this for quite some time. But like all the modules that I just explained, that's what's running a lot of this. Obviously the client isn't, but like, clicking this, flying to a realm. So this realm has XY coordinates, which is stored on chain in the travel module, which I just explained. Like at these coordinates. And it has the resources that have been that are generating. You can see here, this is the claimable, is the rateable. This is my realm, so I can harvest my resource, which is calling the claim resource function, which is then deducting my timestamp. From my stake. This is our military tab. So this is to do with our combat. These are military buildings, and you need to build these buildings before you can actually summon an army accordingly. These are my current armies that exist. And you can see here, there's like a travel time, which is calculated according to the XY coordinates. We are hoping to release this in the next couple weeks to internal alpha testers. We're just finishing some final bits. So if anyone's actually interested in this, just reach out. I know Grug's on the call. He's probably excited that I'm showing this. We've got our work huts, which increase our production output. You can build that. We've got our farms, which generate food for the realm and your empire, which you need to kind of keep your serfs happy. And if your serfs aren't happy, they affect your happiness, which affects your other kind of statistics in your realm, history and law. But one feature that I think is still definitely underlooked is this idea of a multi-call. And what what a multi-call is thanks to account abstraction on StarkNet, we can actually process like multiple function calls in one transaction. And so what I just did was I added all these, I added all these calls to our transaction card, which is here. And what I can do here is I can just sign once, and it will process all 7 in one go. And so some, interesting, it's probably not going to work. I have enough resources or something. But this whole idea around a multi-call, I think, is, in my mind, like the broadband moment for blockchains, because it just drastically increases the data throughput, like per second. You can think about like dial-up, right? Dial-up was super slow. You couldn't really do you couldn't do any of the Web 2 apps that existed on dial-up. It was only when broadband happened that you could actually create these, data-rich applications. And this is kind of where we are right now. And I see multi-calls and account abstraction as being the biggest driving force in the next generation of dApps. So I would leveraging multi-call in some way could be a really interesting module in itself. So go down that path if that's interesting. It could be some kind of automation multi-call. So maybe you could build a light client and that has a batch of multi-calls already queued up. So you can just go there, log in with your wallet, and it's do I want to build Archer Towers on all my realms? And you just click one button and it will automatically do it. But you've kind of already done the piping. So that could be an ancillary product to this game. And then on the AMM, this is, you can trade resources on the AMMs. This is interacting. And when I said before about the, you can trade any amount of resource or 1155 with it, with the C20. So you can see here, we've got our, all our resources. And so I can buy this amount of resources. It tells me, it's going to cost me 148 lords. I can just buy, and it'll buy all these resources for me in one go. So it's different to Uniswap, where it's just just one-to-one trades. And so it does add a much nicer user experience for people playing this game. Yeah, it'd be cool to see some kind of futures markets or more kind of another economic module to this game, because the idea with these resources is that they're going to be leveraged in lots of different modules and lots of different applications. So, and I think people will just end up trading these as well as part of the game. So yeah, I mean that's really what I had planned. We got through the repo, and I've showed some of the current game build. Hopefully that's inspired some people to build. Yeah, so everything is open source here. We're totally a DAO owned product. There's no we've been building this game collectively with the community for the last year. And so if you do end up building a module and it is great, there's a high probability that it could get included. It's definitely not a guarantee, but there's a high probability. Yeah, was there anything else you wanted to cover, Secretive?
Yeah, not from me. I think the only thing to say was just the things we talked about at the start of the call, that it's starting in 24 hours or less, rather, and that there's a number of prizes and bounties. So if you build upon the Realms sort of gaming ecosystem, there's the Lord's Bounty, which means if you score over 70% in the judging, then you'll get a share of that 50,000 lords. So say if 3 teams scored over 70% in the judging, and they were building on a realms in the realms ecosystem, then they would split that 50,000 3 ways. And you can also compete for the first, second, and third place prizes as well. So yeah, a lot of bounties to kind of go after, and also it's not a big hurry. There's time. This is open from Wednesday till the following Sunday, so you don't have to sort of strain yourself to do something kind of wild. You can do some sleeping in that time and have a normal life, perhaps. So, and the other final thing is that, yeah, there's a lot of support available in the Realms Discord as well, because all the devs spend their time there, and the hackers that have been sort of coming and having conversations have been sort of getting support in those channels. So pop over to the Bibliotheca DAO Discord, and you can ask anything you need to ask there.
Nice. Yeah, and feel free to just reach out to me directly if you have a module idea or something. I want to bounce some ideas. Happy to help in any way I can.
Nice. Okay, I think that's it. I think we're done.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sorry. Thanks for everyone to join this morning or this night, depends where you are. And yeah, looking forward of what you all prepared as well. Looking at building our own realms or different bounties. Excited about this new hackathon. And thanks Loaf, thanks Secretive for coming today and presenting even more about the repo you did for the hackathon and for realms. Thanks everyone. I think we can wrap up now.
All right.
Brilliant.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.